So she's all worked up because just all these bad things are happening, and she's convinced it's because the dog got to the project. So she scurries off and sits in her grandma's favorite old armchair, and she tries to correct things and finish the rows that have been pulled out, but she's rushing and it's not quite right. And so she's frustrated, but she's hoping that will set everything normal again. She's like, I don't even need the good luck. I just don't want the bad luck. And so again, stuffs it into her bag and asks her parents about ice skating. They're like, I don't know, dear. I mean, we have all of this to take care of. I just don't see how we could spend the day doing that. We need to repair the house. And she's like, okay, well, I need to get my a spare for my car and get that taken care of. And oh, how will I do that? However will I manage? And Dad's like, well, you could call Bobby at the garage, but again, I'm not sure. He might be visiting the in-laws out of state or something. And so they're all debating, and it's, oh, you know, the high school guy, he could probably give you a tow or help you out. And she's like, oh, I just ran into him, so awkward. But anyway, she contacts him, and he's in the middle of all sorts of stuff, so he's a little short and snippy with her. But he says, yeah, sure. Okay, I can come out and I'll give you a tow to the shop and we'll get you a new tire. We'll get you sorted, but it's going to take a little bit. And she's like, oh, okay. And so she's waiting and pacing, and she's getting agitated. And she looks at the project and she's working on it some more, waiting for him. And she's still in kind of a funk. And, you know, finally he comes. He's trying to ring the doorbell. It's broken. He's trying to knock on the door and it's not really coming through. He goes over to the window and he's waving at her. And then finally she's startled and loses a couple more stitches, and she's irritated with him. Puts it in her bag, goes to the door, and, you know, I knew you were going to take a while, but it didn't mean this long. And anyway, he hooks up her car. She drives into town with him, and he's talking about how it's a special tire that he doesn't have in stock. It's going to be a day or two, and we're getting close to Christmas, and things are just going wrong for her. And so she huffs out of there, and he just rolls his eyes and goes back to his work. And she sees the bestie, and the bestie's like, I've got an update for you about your mystery lady. I think she's a grifter. I think she's here to scam people out of their holiday goodness. And our heroine is like, oh no, this is just bad thing on bad thing. And she tells her, look, the dog got to the project and unraveled a bunch of it, and I've been trying to repair it, but it's not working. And the bestie looks at it and she's like, oh girl, this is a mess. This is not gonna work. Here, I'm gonna repair it for you. And she starts to unravel, and the lead lady goes, no! And, you know, a car comes and crashes right next to them, hits a fire hydrant, and water is spraying everywhere, and it's freezing cold, and everyone's so upset. Ah! And the woman's just standing there holding the project, looking around at the town in chaos. Everybody's in a bad mood, and things are falling and breaking and tripping, and everything's just wrong. And she's like, I can't do this. And so the bestie's like, okay, I got you. And they go off to her apartment or whatever. And they sit down and they warm up after getting splashed by the fire hydrant. They've got cozy blankets around them. And they start reminiscing about their own holidays past and their good memories. And Bestie goes, you know, I really think you need to be the one to repair this, not me. And our girl goes, yeah, I think you're right. And so they put on some classic movies, and they're having a girls' day and wearing fluffy slippers. I don't know why the bestie has a couple pairs of those, but she does. And the project gets mended back to the state that it had been the day before, and things just start to settle in. And somebody shows up at the door and is like, hey, I ordered a pizza and they gave me an extra one. Do you girls want it? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's great. And then they open it up. Ah, anchovies and peppers, our favorite. Something very random and, you know, unique. And so everything seems to be back to rights. And the girls gets a call from her parents that turns out, you know, there was a hole in the roof. And they found out the source of the leak and everything's repaired so that they're good to go ice skating now if she wants to meet up with them. And so she goes to the ice skating rink and everything's so beautiful and magical. And she has a great time skating around with her parents and laughing and hugging. The guy from high school comes out there and he's leaning against the wall of the rink and he's smiling despite himself. And then the mystery woman creeps up next to him. And she's like, oh, is that your girlfriend? And he's like, no, not a girlfriend, just somebody I know. And she's like, oh, well, we wouldn't want you to be cold this winter or something. And, you know, puts her hand on his arm, and our girl looks over and sees it. And she's like, well, rolls her eyes and continues on her way. But we've got a bad feeling about this strange woman. And I am going way too long and deep on this story. But anyway, I think what we see from there is she keeps working on the project a little bit more and the good things keep happening. This kind of love triangle with the mystery woman and the high school boyfriend continues a bit. So I think what happens with the mystery lady is she tries to steal the project yarn, but she doesn't know what's special, and so she actually ends up taking the cheap yarn from the bazaar at the church, and she's like, meh, I'm gonna do some damage here or something. And maybe our girl had another coaster started or something small, and so mystery woman like unravels it all, and she thinks she's so clever. You know, the yarn like dyed her hands green or something, and so then she's all embarrassed going around town with these green hands, and maybe she was flirting with somebody else too aside from the high school guy, and high school guy sees like, you know, the green finger marks or something on like the neck of whoever else, and he's like, I'm over you. The mystery woman and the old lady from church end up having some kind of silly moment with getting all knotted up in this yarn somehow, tangled up, and like, meh. I think eventually she reaches a point where she holds out the whole project, and it's this big blanket, and she realizes she's almost done. And she thinks, well, what do I do? Do I finish this and risk losing the magic? I mean, I could have so many more years. In the future, my kids, my grandkids could have years of good luck. And that feels selfish to finish. But she thinks to herself, no, I think I owe it to Grandma to bring things to an end. You know, we can't spend forever waiting for big grand moments. We need to reach good ends along the way or something. And so she does finish it up, puts in that final finishing bit, and sighs in content, has it on her lap, and falls asleep in Grandma's old chair. She wakes up and it's Christmas morning and everything is just so wonderful and sweet, but it still feels just a little bit less, you know, it doesn't have that twinkle to it that they've had throughout the movie. And she's like, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm at peace with this. And the guy shows up at the door and he professes his love, and the dog somehow is, you know, encouraging things and nudging the two lovers together. And she's in his arms and thinks, oh, what a wonderful life, or, you know, something cheesy. And then we have a flash forward to a year later, and the dog is wearing a scarf that she's made for the dog, and I don't know, the dog's had puppies or something, and she's still with the guy, and the bestie is there with her own partner, maybe a genderqueer type person, and they're all gathered around in the holidays, and it's so cheerful and happy. And somebody gifts her another yarn, and her mother gives it to her, and she goes, oh, what's this? And her mother says, I found another project in the attic for you. Okay, so what do we call this cheesy holiday masterpiece?